Hi, I'm Amanda. 3 years ago, my life flipped upside down when Dad died suddenly. Everything changed after that. Mom was drowning in grief when Greg came along. He presented himself as the savior we didn't know we needed. Calm, collected, and financially savvy. At first, it felt like he was pulling us back from the brink. But it didn't take long for his helpful advice to morph into suffocating control. Now, our house feels like a perpetual twilight zone because Greg insists on minimal lighting to cut costs. Even our landlord, Mr. Thompson, gives us strange looks during inspections, especially after catching Greg unscrewing hallway light bulbs to shave pennies off the bill. Mom, Linda, used to be vibrant, decisive. These days, she's a shadow of herself, agonizing over every dollar spent. Adding to the misery is Greg's mother, Barbara, who has practically taken up permanent residence on our couch. She's Greg's biggest fan, clapping for every absurd cost-cutting stunt. Look how clever my Greg is. She gushes as he fishes used tea bags out of the trash. 5 uses minimum, that's how you save real money. Greg's obsession goes beyond frugality. It's pathological. Appliances stay unplugged unless in use. The hot water heater is set so low that showers feel like punishment. My best friend Kate stopped visiting after Greg implemented a toilet paper rule, 1 square per use. And don't forget, guests must bring their own. We're not running a charity here, Greg would bark. Every penny saved is a penny earned. Barbara always backed him up. Young people today just don't understand the value of money. Last week, during another icy 3-minute shower, timed of course, a sharp pain stabbed through my lower right side. I thought I could brush it off, but by evening I was doubled over, trembling with fever. Mom, I called weakly from the bathroom. Something's really wrong. I think I need to go to the hospital. Greg appeared in the doorway before Mom could respond, Barbara trailing behind him like a shadow. Hospital, he snapped. Do you have any idea what emergency rooms charge? It's probably just gas. But look at her, Mom protested, her voice wavering. She's white as a sheet. Linda, don't coddle her, Barbara scolded. In my day, we didn't run to the doctor for every little stomachache. Ambulances cost thousands, Greg barked, pacing the hallway. You want to throw away months of careful saving for this? She just needs to toughen up. The room spun around me. I clutched the sink, trying to stay upright, but my legs gave out. As I crumpled to the floor, Mom's panicked voice broke through. I'm calling an ambulance, he said, reaching for her phone. Don't you dare, Greg warned, snatching it from her hand. I won't pay for. Darkness swallowed me before he could finish. When I came to, I was sprawled on the cold bathroom tiles, Mom kneeling beside me. Her trembling hands hovered over her phone, her face pale with fear. She needs help, Mom said, standing shakily to face Greg. Barbara inserted herself, her voice sharp. Linda, you're being hysterical. Back in my day, I gave my Greg ginger ale for stomach pains, saved hundreds in medical bills. You should try that. This is different, Mom shouted, moving toward the door. If you won't let me call an ambulance, I'll drive her myself. Greg laughed, the sound cruel and triumphant. Oh really, looking for these? He dangled the car keys before shoving them into his pocket. I've hidden the spare set too. Nobody's going anywhere until she stops this attention-seeking act. Right, Mother? Absolutely right, dear, Barbara chimed in. A little rest and a cold compress will fix her right up. Through the haze of pain, I tried to speak, to tell them how much worse it was getting. But all that came out was a strangled gasp. I could only manage a weak moan. The bathroom tiles seemed to spin beneath me, and despite the cold floor, my skin burned like fire. She's getting worse. Mom's voice cracked with fear. Please, Greg, she needs help. What she needs is a lesson in financial responsibility. Greg roared, his face twisting with fury. Every hospital visit is hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Do you want us to end up in the poorhouse? Barbara chimed in, pressing a damp cloth to my forehead, which felt like sandpaper against my burning skin. Nobody believes in home remedies anymore, she lamented. Young people today run to doctors for every sniffle and ache. The front door creaked open, interrupting Barbara's lecture. Hello, is anyone here? A familiar voice called out. The door was ajar. Movie night, remember. Sorry I'm early, but I brought popcorn. Kate stopped mid-sentence as her eyes landed on me. Oh my God, Amanda. She dropped her bags and rushed to my side, her hand brushing my forehead. She yanked it back instantly. She's burning up. What's going on? Why hasn't anyone called an ambulance? Now listen here, Greg growled, stepping toward her, his face red with anger. This is a family matter. We don't need outsiders interfering with our financial decisions. Financial decisions? Kate's voice dripped with disbelief as she glanced between Greg, Barbara, and my terrified mother. Realization dawned on her face. Without another word, Kate pulled out her phone. Don't you dare. Greg lunged for it. Do you know what the deductible is for emergency services? $5,000. I won't let you bankrupt this family with unnecessary medical bills. Unnecessary? Kate's voice turned ice cold as she dialed 911. She's barely conscious, Greg, Kate snapped, holding the phone to her ear. Barbara wrung her hands dramatically. In my day, people die from appendicitis rather than bankrupt their families, Kate retorted, already giving the dispatcher our address. Greg's face turned purple as he screamed, You'll be responsible for the deductible, every penny of it. $5,000. Do you hear me? 5. But Kate wasn't listening. Mom broke down in tears of relief as the sound of approaching sirens pierced the night air. Greg spun around, panic etched on his face. Who called them? Who called them? He pointed an accusing finger at Kate. You had no right. The ambulance screeched to a halt outside, and Greg rushed to block the front door with Barbara trailing behind him. No one called for medical help here, Barbara shouted through the door. My son handles all family health decisions. Ma'am. A paramedic's firm voice answered from the other side. We received an emergency call. Step aside or we'll have to involve the police. Barbara threw open the window, shouting to the gathering neighbors, Nothing to see here. Just another young person seeking attention. In my day, we dealt with illness at home, like sensible people. Mrs. Peterson from next door recorded the chaos on her phone, and more neighbors gathered, whispering and pointing. Sir, move away from the door, a second paramedic warned, radio in hand. We have a report of a critical patient. Mr. Thompson, our landlord, suddenly appeared behind the paramedics. I'm the property owner, he said firmly. You have my full permission to enter. With that, the paramedics pushed past Greg and Barbara, rushing to my side. Their faces turned grim as they checked my vitals. Temperature is dangerously high, one of them said. Severe abdominal rigidity, possible peritonitis. The ride to the hospital was a blur of sirens and voices. Greg and Barbara followed in their car, calling everyone they knew to complain about wasteful medical expenses. In the emergency room, the doctor's face darkened after examining me. She has a burst appendix, she said gravely. The infection is spreading. We need to operate immediately, or she won't survive. Surgery, Greg exploded. Do you have any idea what that costs? Just give her some antibiotics. Sir, the doctor's voice was like steel. Without immediate intervention, your stepdaughter could die. Die? Barbara scoffed. Doctors always exaggerate to run up bills. In my day. I've seen enough, Mr. Thompson interrupted, pulling out his phone. I'm calling the police. I witnessed everything from blocking medical access to delaying critical care. Greg's face went pale. You can't prove anything. This is all a setup to force us into debt. Actually, Kate interjected, holding up her phone, I can prove everything, from when you hid the car keys to when you blocked the paramedics. It's all recorded. 2 police officers entered the ER as the medical team prepped me for surgery. Mr. Watson, Mrs. Watson, one officer said sternly, we need to ask you some questions about deliberately preventing medical care for a critical patient. This is harassment, Barbara shrieked. My Greg was protecting his family from medical debt. The last thing I heard before being wheeled into surgery was Kate telling the officers, I have recordings of everything. Every single thing. 2 weeks after my surgery, the truth about Greg and Barbara came crashing down like a house of cards. The hospital social worker, Miss Martinez, had been quietly building a case, documenting everything from the night I was admitted. This isn't their first time, she told Mom, spreading a series of files across her desk. We've identified 3 other families in the area. Same pattern. Greg marries a vulnerable single parent, then denies medical care to the children, always citing financial reasons. Mom sat frozen, her hands shaking as she sifted through insurance documents. He canceled our health insurance 4 months ago, she whispered. He said the premiums went up, but really, her voice broke. Miss Martinez nodded grimly. He pocketed the premium money. But that's not all. That's when we discovered Greg's secret savings account. While I lay in agony on the bathroom floor, listening to him rant about ambulance costs, he had over $50,000 stashed away. Money he'd hoarded by denying us basic necessities, canceling insurance, and imposing his cruel penny-pinching regime. I want a divorce, Mom announced, her voice steady and stronger than I'd heard in years. And I'm pressing charges. The police investigation moved swiftly. Other victims came forward, previous stepchildren who'd suffered at Greg's hands. One girl had nearly lost her leg to an untreated infection. A boy had permanent damage from a delayed appendix surgery eerily similar to what Greg tried to do to me. Barbara's shrieking about ungrateful families at the courthouse did nothing to help their case. Greg's attempts to justify his actions as teaching financial responsibility fell flat, especially when Kate's recordings, Mrs. Peterson's videos, and witness testimonies painted a damning picture. The community rallied around us. Mr. Thompson organized a fundraiser to help cover my medical bills. Neighbors who had witnessed everything that night gave their statements to investigators. The evidence was overwhelming. The judge's verdict was swift. Greg was convicted of criminal endangerment and insurance fraud. Barbara, charged as an accomplice, faced penalties for actively preventing medical care and enabling Greg's abuse. Both were ordered to pay restitution. In my years on the bench, the judge declared, I've rarely seen such calculated cruelty disguised as financial prudence. Greg's precious savings were drained to compensate his victims, leaving him and Barbara penniless. Their reputations were shattered. Barbara's endless social media rants about being persecuted only backfired as former victims flooded the comments with their own stories. Today, our home feels light again. Mom's smile has returned, and the house is warm, well-lit, and full of life. Kate visits often, bringing takeout and laughter. Mr. Thompson even hired Mom to manage tenant relations, saying she had a sharp eye for spotting red flags. As for me, I'm healing well. The community has grown closer and more vigilant, ensuring no one else falls prey to people like Greg and Barbara. And Greg and Barbara. Last we heard, they're living in a cheap motel, still preaching about financial responsibility to anyone who will listen. But no one's buying their act anymore. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. And that's exactly what we did. Discussion. Do enablers deserve harsher punishment? Barbara's role in this story raises an important question. Are enablers as culpable, or perhaps more dangerous, than the abusers they defend? By normalizing Greg's actions and actively supporting his cruelty, Barbara perpetuated harm and silenced those who might have spoken out sooner. While Greg was the architect of the abuse, Barbara played a vital role in ensuring his behavior seemed normal to the family and others. This normalization can make abuse harder to recognize and resist, potentially leading to greater and more prolonged harm. What do you think? Should enablers face harsher punishment than the abusers themselves? Or does their accountability depend on the extent of their complicity?